So my name is Jake Pritchard, and I'm 27 years old. I live in Brooklyn, New York, and I was the first contributor to the World Identity Lab project. I guess a lot. So I'm a photographer, and I think that uh, a lot of why I got into photography uh, was the idea. I originally went to school as a photojournalist, and a lot of that was kind of the idea of being able, as a photographer, as a journalist, you kind of have the license to go out in the world and ask people questions and really get into other people's lives in a way that most people don't have the opportunity to do it. So I think, a lot, I feel like I'm a very, I really like to observe things. And I really, even from a really young age, when I was 16, I went to Sweden as an exchange student, and was really just interested in the idea that, you're born in a certain place, and you're born kind of into a certain culture, but that's not necessarily the best way for you to live, and maybe, I guess, the best identity for you, to put it kind of into terms of your project. So I've been very interested in kind of exploring other ways of living, other cultures, and it started there when I was 16. I lived in Sweden, and I think I really learned a lot there. And even like we were just talking, I was in Bhutan, and really kind of learned a lot about Buddhism and that way of life, which is really so much different. Living in New York now is a pretty special place, and I think that people. I love living here, but I also think that people have a very certain attitude towards life and work, and I don't think it's necessarily the best. So I think it's always important to kind of be aware of the way that the culture around you influences you and the way you live. So the project was to shoot a teenager, and living here where I do in Brooklyn, it's a lot of people, I'd say between, right out of college, which is about 21 years old, to maybe kind of their low 30s. So in some ways, it was just a matter of she ended up being one of the only teenagers that I know. And she lives here in the building. Her parents are friends of mine, too. So that was, although in the end, I think it ended up, she was a really, I didn't know her very well, and it was really interesting to interview her for the project because she, I think, getting back into that whole idea of identity and how your culture defines you. We live in a neighborhood that's kind of an artistic community in New York. A lot of people live here because they've come here to pursue careers as artists. And I think for me personally, I'm almost like so jealous of her to have the opportunity to grow up here. But she's almost, and maybe part of it is I think as a teenager, you're always kind of questioning where you are and your surroundings and the way it influences you. But she's almost, she at the time we did the interview, I don't know if she still is, but she was attending a Catholic church, and almost kind of looking for her own identity that was very different from the way that most people live here. I really love, oftentimes when I'm shooting, it'll be a little bit more of a production, and we'll have an art director, and we'll have lighting. But I really love to shoot in the way that we shot her, which was just kind of, we went out, we didn't walk more than a block from this building where we live. There's a kind of a dock there that goes out on the water. It overlooks New York City. And it was actually kind of a really beautiful night. Her dad plays the cello, and he was out there on the dock with another friend. Oh, we lost my lighting here. So her dad is a cellist. He was out there on the dock playing. Another friend of ours was playing the violin, and it was just kind of sunset. And we just, really simple. Just me and a camera, and no lighting, no technical stuff, and it was a really quick shoot. You described the project. I hadn't seen anyone else who contributed, um, which I have to admit, a lot of times I think when people kind of reach out like that, I've got a lot of other stuff going on. Sometimes I'm skeptical, but I always, I think it's great to have the opportunity to shoot something um, where you have some parameters. You have some, someone's defined, you have to shoot within this regard, but at the same time, I got to shoot it completely on my own. I really kind of had creative control over it. So it was fun to be able to contribute to something in that way. I guess in some ways I have several. As a photographer, I really, hope to kind of contribute uh, in the sense of I guess it kind of feels like to say it out loud seems in a way kind of like a lofty idea. But I really do hope to kind of contribute to people's ideas, about art and about living and kind of people learning about other parts of the world by seeing things through photography. So that's one of them. Also, just the idea of, living a good life and having great relationships with people and being able to contribute, I guess, kind of, hopefully the world is in some small ways a better place after I'm here. That, for me right now, is actually a very interesting question because I know a lot of people who are shooting video, who are photographers, who are peers of mine, and they see that there's this commercial opportunity that more with the internet, and people are more kind of connected to devices where you can watch video. And I haven't gotten into that. But I look at it and I consider it because there is more opportunity there. And I wonder, what were the core things that brought me into photography? Is it about really that still image? Or is it more about kind of the opportunity to go out in the world and to create something and to interact with people and learn about them? And I think that at the end of the day, that's what it really is about for me, and kind of telling your voice. And I think photography is just one way to do that in my experience and kind of my thoughts. So maybe it won't always be still photography for me. All right, cool. Well, yeah. So, and if you have follow-up questions or anything else, definitely feel free to shout.